I don't really know what this is. I just had words floating around my head and I decided to record them. I'm 18 years old and I've been in 2 almost relationships. I don't know what you call them. They weren't talking stages either, so don't say that they were talking stages, because they were relationships for all intents and purposes. But I wanted to talk about, more specifically, being in love, but not, falling for another person and the, I won't say cliche idea of love, because it's a cliche because it's true. Not that I've had experience. Well, I kind of have. I'm not here to credentialize you into taking my words seriously. I just want to talk. So, I'll talk. I want to talk specifically about the more understated part of love. It's the idea of being chosen, and this paradoxical nature of being chosen, because it's a euphoric, almost unearthly feeling the first time someone chooses you to be theirs, so to speak. Not in a marital sense, in like a relationship sense. It's this paradoxical sort of almost uncontrollable feeling of being humbled, but at the same time also having a healthy boost to your ego, assuming you don't already have a ego the size of Jupiter. And I'm more specifically talking to the, I guess, lonely, unrequited lover, I should say. You guys are the main target of this, whatever the hell this is, because I empathize with you the most. If you could believe it, I haven't had many girlfriends, like I stated previously. And there's a specific reason for this that I won't get to, because, well, maybe it's my tendency to go off on long monologues. This happens more often than you think, but most of the time it's in my head. This is the first one I decided to record and upload for your viewing pleasure whenever you want to hear my words of wisdom. I don't know. The point being, when you are chosen by someone, there's a paradoxical nature to it, because it takes a level of humility to entertain this choice. And not only that, it also takes a level of humility to, I guess, woo a girl, ideally. Ideally, she's not attracted to people with large, boisterous egos who drone on about their own great achievements because they are greater than everyone else. Ideally, that's not the kind of person that you'd be going for, but if you are, I hope she is worth it. It's a humbling sort of weight that bears down on you, because you feel honored to be able to have the opportunity to accept this position as her person, her more than friend, her everything, for lack of a better word. In the same way that it's honoring, though, it's also like, it's also a healthy dose of ego to those who lack it. Because there's a certain amount of confidence that you need to have in order to, have the courage to talk to a girl, do all the courting stuff. There's a certain level of ego that needs to be had, because you have to know your own worth and know who's worth your time, so to speak, and who's not. And I think that's a really important thing that most men miss in courting. It's ego. I guess it's a cliche to say that girls can read you. And it is, but it's only a cliche if it's true, right? At least that's what I've always thought. The idea of, being chosen, being so humbling yet so energizing to your self-confidence, your self-worth almost. Not that you should tie your self-worth to attention from external sources, because if you tie your self-worth to some external factor, you're always at the mercy of that factor. Whether it be girls, your family, your friends, social media, God forbid, whatever. But there's a line with ego and pride and thinking that you are better than your peer. Now, granted, I imagine some of you, maybe even in my 43 subscriber audience, do think there are some people you're better than, and that's fine. There's no shame in believing that you have a superior skill to someone, but you shouldn't think you're better than them on the basis of you being you and them being them. If you're better at math than someone, that's like a worthy boost to your ego. Not to say that you should flaunt it and belittle them for it, unless they have it coming, which sometimes some kids really need their ego to be put in check. I feel like modernity and ego have really become interwoven with modern dating, so to speak, because there's this idea on, both sides of the, men versus female culture war of I deserve and I want and I deserve on the basis of this. It's more flippant in women for whatever reason. Well, it's not whatever, it's a pretty clear reason. It's how they were raised. Yeah, it's how they were raised usually, because, it's the classic cliche of, you're my little princess. Fathers to their daughters always say they love to espouse off their greatness and how their beauty outshone the very stars and were Aphrodite to come down were Aphrodite to come down herself and exclaim this fact, it would already have been known that the goddess of love's input is irrelevant. Okay? It's how they were raised, so it's no wonder that they go into the dating market. Even in high school, I've seen this, where these girls are turning down people that, for all intents and purposes, they have no business turning down. I don't mean to sound rude, but that's just how I feel about it. And you see it so much more with social media and, these women who, these dating standard, or these ideal man tests, and they see that they have like a 0.01% chance, and they're like confronted with their own, absurd expectations. And they sit there and be like, well, I guess he better pick me, or some ridiculous, completely unrealistic statement like that. Now, if we flip over to the opposite side, it's a bit more understated, because modern men are beseeched. They are... Now, I'm not going to say all men are good, because there's a lot of bad ones out there. I've seen them in the flesh. But these bad ones normally are able to blend in like wolves in sheep's clothing into female friend groups. I'm, of course, talking about the chameleon male, or the molting male, who sheds his skin the second that he needs to, the molting male, he sheds his skin the second he realizes that, sexual access has been denied to him by this female and he needs to get it from another one. Or in more modern terms, or more colloquially and culturally known terms, the performative male. Now, I despise these males the most because they are liars. And if we go back to that idea of being chosen again, where, she chooses you for you, ideally you've known her long enough to see mainly the good, but some of the bad, because you should be honest with someone, okay? If you're having a bad day and she asks about it, you shouldn't just say it's nothing, because, then she feels like she can't connect with you, and the last thing you want to do is shut her out. Because that makes her feel like that she, or that you think she's not worthy to know your deepest, darkest parts, and not your deepest, darkest, but at least this mild thing that's troubling you. And if it's truly a deep, dark part of you, you can just tell her, I was having a rough day, I don't want to talk about it, and leave it at that. But if... I wouldn't call men who hide their flaws, like, I wouldn't call men who, purposely always try to put on a certain personality for a girl, even if they do it on accident. I wouldn't call them molters or snakes or vipers or anything like that. But men who do that without either knowingly or unknowingly, I want you to examine your relationship with this person that you like and have feelings for, and ideally you admire and respect them, and think they're worthy of you, that you're worthy of them and they're worthy of you, because that is an important factor, whether they're worthy of you. And I'm sick of thinking that it's not, or saying that it's not, or people saying that it's not. I've never said that I wasn't. If the version that is worthy of them to that person is this flawless, indestructible, impervious Iron Man person, then what happens whenever you have a day that you can't hide from her? Because the day will come where you need to let it all out, and when you do, she's not going to be ready for it because you never showed her that part of you beforehand. I want you to, men who, I guess, shield their flaws from these girls, I want you to ask yourself, do you do this intentionally out of, a lack of confidence or a lack of trust in this person that they will no longer care about you? If you show them that you're weak, which in that case, I'd say that, good God, in that case, I'd say that that girl wasn't worth it to begin with if she sees you as weak for having bad days and not be an impervious marble statue. Or are you doing it unintentionally? And if you are, then you need to stop immediately, because that could trap you in the same trap as the intentional guy, except the intentional guy knows he's doing it. And I ask the intentional people, the performers, the play actors, the jesters for these girls, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice for this? How desperate are you truly? Because it takes a certain level of complete and total humiliation and desperation to just not even try as yourself and, just become someone else. Because the version of you that she has chosen is a lie. It doesn't exist. It's a fiction. And now, at this point, you need to ask yourself what's worse, the fact that the version of you she loves doesn't exist, or the fact that you lied to someone, intentionally or unintentionally. You lied to someone who you deeply admire and respect, and who you find worthy in your eyes, and she finds you worthy in yours, if she chooses you. And that's a crushing realization, to know that intentionally or unintentionally, this girl can never truly know you, because getting to know you is part of the courting phase. I'm not saying you have to spill your guts to every woman you meet. God, no. If you tell her about your past trauma and she tells you about yours, then you'll have an interesting relationship, but it's ultimately doomed to fail, because women who bond through traumatic childhoods are only looking for something that they never had in their childhood. And that is a very depressing thing to realize, because sometimes you grow to be really caring and affectionate of these people. And then you realize that all you ever were to them, whether they knew it or not, was just a source of validation, or someone to say, I'm proud of you, to them. Suppose we can trace all this back to modern dating culture, because I really only slandered the girls, which is unfair of me. I love to take pot shots at everyone. Modern men are besieged by their own world of issues. Like I said, the molter, the performative male, being one of them. But the other types of men, I'll just lump them all into the category of either A, simps who are utterly pathetic and unworthy of any form of attention from any person. B, they're beggars who don't recognize their own self-worth, and they're sort of like simps, but they actually leave their homes every once in a while, whereas the simp is mainly known as the fat, ugly, disgusting, neck-bearded Discord bot. And I understand that I have a bit of a neck beard going on, but actually I don't. I kind of do, okay. But I'm not fat. I exercise every day. So I'm at least a little, so I'm a lot better than them. Because they've given up and succumbed to their gluttony. The third kind is the gooner. Now the gooner is a very special kind of male. I used to be that kind of male. And occasionally I will succumb to my animal instincts. But I hated myself for it. I still do sometimes. I hate myself for being a, uncontrollable ape. The important thing is, between the two types of gooner, there is the discouraged gooner who has given up on the idea of not watching porn, and they are fully committed. This is their only form of sexual gratification they will ever get. That or hookers. And hookers are probably healthier than porn. I really hope this video doesn't get taken down because I said no words, but I'm sure I'll be fine. The second kind of male is one that I am, the structural or the frictional gooner, I should say. Now, the frictional gooner is a gooner who succumbs to his urges but is constantly trying to improve. Ideally, you better be. If you're like this, you constantly succumb to your urges. Well, not constantly. Maybe like you have a couple streaks of like 3 or 4 days and then you succumb again and then you keep doing the same thing over and over again and the cycle repeats. But it's not about more or less the gooning itself, okay? It's what it does to your mind, because the effects have been extensively documented. It does the same stuff to your brain as heroin. It clouds your thinking, gives you brain fog, clouds your judgment, makes you stupid, makes you unable to respond quickly, lowers your attention span, lowers your motivation. It's basically a net negative every time you do it, and the effects only compound the more you do it. If you couldn't tell, I'm a large advocate against this filth. I despise it. I hate it. I hate people who push it, and I hate people who advertise it, and I hate the people who do it. All of them. Because it turns you into someone that you don't want to be. These men who watch this porn, they end up putting these women on pedestals, or worse, they become disgusting freak perverts to them. And they make these women upset or uncomfortable. And in turn creates more of a cultural divide between them, because women think all men are just like this one, because whatever. Because I've never seen a woman successfully articulate the ability to understand a statistical generalization. And I imagine you've seen it too, but that's neither here nor there. I hate saying things like that, because it really makes me feel like I'm biased towards one side, and I always will be, because I have a dong last I checked. And not a vagina, so I really can't know from the female perspective. I can't know how their mind works, despite all my best attempts at understanding them. Still more of an enigma than Banach algebra and Hilbert space, but that's neither here nor there. I suppose it bears mentioning that this is all circumstantial. This is all just from my experience. Maybe you're someone who is addicted to pornography, but you managed to find a girlfriend anyway. And, now you're sleuthed into degeneracy together. And in that case, I don't know whether to be happy for you or pity you. The ultimate point that I wanted to make with this video is that it's rough out there for everyone. You got perverts, and you got cold-hearted ice queens. But it's worth it, because when you find that person who molds you, who builds you up to be better, to be more than you are, who sees your potential, there is no greater feeling than that. Because modern society has convinced us that you can fill this hole inside you with money or fame or attention from social media or likes or, hedonistic, uncommitted sex or porn or something, or boatloads of money, or, rich friends or something, or extravagancies beyond your wildest dreams. Things like that. All pale in comparison to finding someone who sees you for not who you are, but who they know you can be, and who chooses you in spite of your flaws and helps you grow past them as you help her grow past hers. And maybe it's the same idea with trauma bonding, but I find that to be an unstable and ultimately fruitless endeavor, because they will never truly learn until something horrific, I guess. No. They won't ever truly learn until they know why they are the way they are. And that either takes years of therapy or the horrific event, like a messy breakup with a manipulative person or some other awful thing. This was fun. Humans need to be needed, I think. We need to be chosen. We need to feel like there's a reason for us to exist, because if we indulge in the hedonistic pleasures of society, it grants us instant dopamine and makes our brains do the little monkey dance and gets the hamster wheel in our head rolling and, fires off the neurons. But it's meaningless, ultimately. Because